Romans 13, 1 through 5. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be in subjection, not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. Amen. A lot to be interpreted in that one. Tell you what. Even the Romans knew what they believed was good conduct. But now what do you do in America when the laws become evil, wicked, and the government starts viewing good as evil and evil as good? What do you do? Pray. Pray and obey God, not wicked man. But fear authority, righteous authority, and authority that knows what righteousness is. But yeah, if they're trying to enforce evil, you don't obey wicked authority. You obey God. That's why you read in Proverbs. There's another one about the scepter of wickedness will not rule over the righteous. God will not allow it. So then what do you have? You have the fear of God, and you have something that I can talk about in a later video. But here we go, I'm about to box. You have a war. That's what you have. The government goes wicked. You have a war. That's what I felt like saying. Now, Paul, he was a warrior in different ways. How are you going to take on the whole Roman government with just one Jew or a group of Jews? Think about it. He killed Christians, persecuted a lower sect. You think that he wasn't trying to help overthrow the Roman government at one time? You think Paul may have been a zealot? I think it's very likely. You know, Jesus had a zealot in his posse, in his group, whatever you want to call it, the disciples. And them zealots, they was making war on the Roman government. They was trying to copy Judas, not Iscariot, Judas Maccabees, a freedom fighter and an Israelite patriot from 100 years before Christ. Think about that stuff. It's interesting, man. Very interesting. So yeah, good old Paul, the wise Jew who feared the Lord, he may have been in on the group of the Zealots. There may have been many Pharisees actually for the Zealots, but they didn't want to risk their lives. Let the young bloods go fight the Romans while we try and keep the traditions. But Saul was a young blood when he was in the, Gamaliel Pharisaic group, right, where he was learning. But yeah, man, his ideal was not to use force to overthrow the Roman government, but the gospel, which worked. And then eventually the Roman government was converted, and then you have a Christian army, or an army that has to function in the living world and society. And I know that I'm not all for the Crusades. I think it's interesting what happened, the history. I have friends, I can shout out to Muhammad, Mo, love you. We've had very civil and just conversation regarding Christian and Muslim relations and how to make peace and forge peace in two cultures that, have a history of war. Christians fought against Christians, guys. We had almost 30 years war between Catholics and Protestants, men killing men of the faith. Muslims have fought against Muslims, Muslims have fought against Christians, and Christians have fought against Muslims. How do we make peace? How do we live in peace? Jesus did teach rightly, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. And, Christ himself is also the greatest warrior. But yeah, his love is what overcame the world. And it will conquer the world when he comes back. And yeah, there's just a lot of various thoughts. But yeah, I'm telling you what, if the government goes rogue and goes straight up anti-Christ, we're fighting against those dudes. We're not submitting to the 666 mark, y'all. Christians, hear me clearly and hear me calmly. You are not to receive the mark of the beast. You are to fight against that kingdom. You are to loathe the works of the wicked and the works of the wicked one. You are to resist the devil, and he will flee from you. You are to resist him, to fight against him, not to accept his mark or accept his wicked laws. Understood? Have a good day.